I'm here just a short distance from the River Tweed, on the English side of the River Tweed. Previously I've just been to Ladykirk, where on the Scottish side of the Tweed, the Scots wanted negotiations to take place about that land in the north and about Edward I's aspirations for land in the north. But here at Norham Castle, a magnificent stronghold, which was a key point in the wars between Scotland and England. But more importantly, this is where the competitors met for the Scottish throne. Edward I came up from England, and the Scots nobles gathered here. Two main factions, the Bruce family and the Balliol family. The Balliol had strong connections through marriage to the Comyn family, and the Comyn family ruled most of Scotland. They really had substantial lands for knightly service, and they were an extremely powerful family. Now, John Balliol was the preferred choice here. The Bruces lost out. Robert the Bruce's father, known as the competitor, lost out here. It must have been a devastating blow to Robert Bruce and young Robert the Bruce, the future king, as King Edward I here declared in this hall, which would have been the main hall at the time, that John Balliol would be King of Scots. Now, it wasn't long after that Edward would humiliate Balliol. He would make powerful demands on him and eventually strip him of the Scottish kingship, which, in my opinion, he'd planned all along. And Bruce would have left here to rebuild again, to rebuild his quest for kingship and power in Scotland. This is a phenomenal place. It's been a great stronghold at times. It's right above the River Tweed, which is just below me there. But it's such a formidable place that Edward had thought he'd decided the Scots' destiny here. He did not expect later on how things would unfold, with the different insurrections from William Wallace, who fought in the name of King John. He fought for the Balliol cause, and the Bruces were left to lick their wounds and plan again, which they did, and which young Robert Bruce eventually did. But to visit here, to walk in the footsteps of where this great debate, this power struggle took place, and to keep the peace, to stop civil war erupting in Scotland, Edward was chosen as the man, as the peacekeeper, to make the choice for the Scots, and he chose John Balliol. But walking amongst these walls, walking in the footsteps of where these great nobles who would change Scottish history and English in a very powerful way is quite something. It's quite an experience. I haven't been here now for, oh goodness me, it must be 10 or 12 years. Behind me is the huge tower that remains of Norham Castle. But it really is. The path behind me, this was the main entrance into the castle here. Now, Balliol did have the stronger claim to the throne, but the Balliol, Comyn faction, the Bruces and other competitors who really didn't stand much of a chance, all walked up this path behind me into these great walls, into the presence of Edward, King of England, who would decide Scotland's fate, at least for the time being. But this is well worth a visit. It's well worth a walk along the Tweed to see where English forces forded the Tweed, where Scottish forces forded it on their way down here. I think the Scots captured this on 4 different occasions through the years, out of maybe 12 or 13 different tries. But it never fails to amaze me, the magnificence of Norham Castle, and such a significant player in the great cause. It must have made quite an impression for young Robert the Bruce, the future king, when he walked up through this gate and into the castle. They must have known that the Balliols indeed had the stronger claim. But Bruce was no stranger to adversity, and the years that were to follow this would give him untold adversity that he could never have imagined at the time. But it was the first step. It was the first step in Robert the Bruce realizing his ambition, his claim, what he thought was his right to the throne, King of Scots, and what ultimately he would do to reach that goal.